Have you ever been scrolling on Airbnb looking for a rental property to go out of town? And then you think to yourself, this is where the money at. But then you think, where am I going to get the money or the rental property from? This is where rental arbitrage come in. Rental arbitrage is the practice of renting out a long-term rental on a short-term rental platform such as Airbnb and Vrbo. The very first thing you need to do is check if it's legal in your area. Check to see if short-term rentals are allowed in your region. Is a hospitality license required in your area? Find out if your landlord approves of your rental arbitrage business. Just like with anything, it comes with pros and cons. Let's check out the pros. One of the biggest benefits of rental arbitrage is not owning a property. You do not need to invest any amount upfront or pay a mortgage for 30 years with interest. You just need some good convincing skills, some capital to furnish, and a little money. And when I say a little money, that means, okay, let's just say the landlord agrees to the agreement. You have to go ahead and pay the first month up front, because when you first start out, you're not going to have you're not going to have someone to come rent the vacation home. So you need to make sure you have enough money to pay that first month until you start getting your guests to sign up. Okay, let's take a look at the cons. It said you will need to pay for amenities and utilities like Wi-Fi and TV. That will be up to you and the landlord. The landlord can continue to pay those things, or they may ask you, but make sure you ask that up front and make sure that is a part of your contract. It states the landlord can stop subleasing if he doesn't wish to continue. That is a big con. So that goes back to your contract. Make sure your contract has all this in here, stating that they cannot stop at a certain time, or if they do want to stop because it's their property, they need to give you so many days in advance, so many months, like a month advance, 30 days, something to give you time to go ahead and get with another landlord. But it's very important that you have all this in the contract. It states you will need to invest in furnishing the place. That's a yes and a no. Sometimes the landlord will leave their items in, and sometimes you have to furnish. Once again, what I say, make sure you get all that in your contract. Make sure that it's working for you, but also making them happy in the process. Okay, it says it can be tricky to find the right landlord, and that is so true. So make sure you shop around. You know how we're looking for a new outfit or a TV or a new bed or a new mattress. We shop around. We don't just pick the first thing that we see. Shop around. Feel the energy, feel the environment. See how things will work between you guys, because you're trying to work with them long term. So think about, can I work with them long term? Or it's a no. Very important. This is also a biggie. You will have to pay for wear and tear done by guests. And yes, things happen. I mean, you can go months without having any damages, and then one day you have a small damage or a big damage, but you are responsible for getting those repairs done. To me, this one is the biggie of them all. Bookings will not be constant, and you might have to pay from your savings to cover the lease. Major, major, major. As with anything, there are off seasons and there are on seasons. You may receive bookings for the entire summer, then winter comes and it's here, there. But guess what? The rent still has to be paid to the landlord. So that's something to think about as well. Okay, and once again, they're saying you'll be taking care of maintenance and damages, which can add up, which they can add up. Also, I would like to add this in here if you don't know. People steal. People take things. So make sure you have enough money to replace those items. People take blankets. They take pillows. They take bath rags, towels, coffee makers, spoons, bowls. I know it sounds crazy, but it happens. So make sure you have some money to the side to replace those items if they are taken. Now, let's get back to the good stuff, because I know you're watching this video to make extra money, but it's important that you hear the things that come with the extra money. But let's get back to the money. It says, what is an example of an arbitrage on Airbnb? Imagine you rent an apartment for $2,000 per month. If you sublet that same apartment on Airbnb for the month at $150 per day, you could pay off your rent in just under 2 weeks. Once you've paid off the rent, the rest of the month is pure profit. And that is true. So whatever your monthly rental amount is that you have agreed with the landlord, divide that up into so many days, and then that's how much you put on there per day, and whatever you make after that is pure profit. That's how you'll make your extra money. So let's go over how the Airbnb arbitrage works a little bit more. Okay, it says rental arbitrage is where you use other people's properties to make a profit on your own. First, you have to find a property that's for rent, call the landlord, and pitch the idea that you'll utilize their space as a short-term rental on Airbnb. Once you have reached confirmation, you draft an agreement and you get your business going. So you can reach out to the landlord via phone or email. I'm a paper trail type of person, so definitely email would be my route. Okay, so here's a template. You'll simply put all your information in, and then it says your structure. Introduce yourself and your company. Explain how you can help the landlord reach their goals. Provide a specific example of how you helped other landlords in the past. Now, if you haven't done this before, just still make it sound good. Make it sound believable, but also make sure the expectations, and make sure you're doing exactly what you're putting in the email, because once again, there goes the landlord saying, okay, but this isn't working out. This isn't what I thought. But that goes back to having everything in your contract. But even though you may have it in your contract, please make sure you stand up on what you say. Because remember, you want this extra money. And once you start getting the extra money, you don't want to lose it. So make sure you keep your end of the deal as well. So here's an example of a consent sublet contract. And it has, you put all your information inside of there. And then here's a different one that's more detailed, but you can choose which one is best for you.
I'm a 5-star Airbnb superhost, and I'm going to show you exactly how you can tap into the Airbnb market and make a ton of money without owning any property. What I'm talking about is called an Airbnb co-host. These jobs are a dime a dozen. Tons of co-hosting jobs available, and most of them are going to be remote. Remember, as a co-host, you're partnering up with the host or the property owner. So you don't need to have any property. You don't need to actually go buy a unit. You don't need to furnish the unit. You're actually getting paid thousands of dollars a month from the actual host who owns the property to simply help them manage their listings so that they can keep scaling their business. Being a good co-host simply means that you are able to respond to guest inquiries, guest reservations, accept bookings. You're able to actually manage the calendar and set it up where cleaners can come in and out of the units once they are available and need to be flipped. And you also just act as a main liaison for communication between the property owner and any guests that are checking in. So they know their property is always being taken care of, that you are actually able to message the guests back and forth without them kind of doing it themselves. So they can have a hands-off approach. They can continue to grow their business and acquire more property without worrying about everything kind of behind the scenes.